Welcome to the crazy world of 1950s giant bug movies. From radioactive ants to colossal spiders, these films captured the imagination of a generation. But what made them so captivating, and why did they resonate with audiences? Join us today as we count down our top 10 big bug flicks that defined an era of sci-fi cinema. With that said, let's get started. Fantasy, sci-fi, horror, rerun zone. Earth vs. the Spider, 1958.
Are you sure that thing's dead?
Sure it's dead.
How come it kicked me?
Earth vs. the Spider was a 1958 drive-in favorite. It blended teen rebellion with arachnid horror. The story zeroes in on a quaint American town besieged by an enormous tarantula. The story unfolds with teenager Carol and her boyfriend Mike discovering her father's abandoned truck near a mysterious cave. Their curiosity leads them into the cave's depths, where they stumble upon a colossal spider's web and come face to face with the monstrous arachnid. After narrowly escaping, they alert the local authorities. Skeptical at first, the sheriff is eventually convinced by the earnest science teacher, Mr. Kingman, to confront the creature. Utilizing DDT, they believe they vanquished the spider and transport its seemingly lifeless body to the high school gym for study. However, the beast is merely dormant. Awakened by the vibrations of rock and roll music during a student rehearsal, it breaks free, wreaking havoc upon the town once more. In a climatic showdown, the townspeople employ electricity to finally subdue the creature within its cavernous lair. This black and white sci-fi horror film, although very low budget, has since become a cult classic. Monster from Green Hell, 1957. In this film, a scientific experiment goes wrong, causing wasps exposed to radiation to grow to monstrous proportions. Of course, these creatures don't stay contained. Instead, they end up terrorizing a remote region in Africa known ominously as Green Hell. Scientist Dr. Quent Brady and Dan Morgan venture into the wild to investigate the mysterious deaths occurring in the area, only to confront giant mutated wasps with an appetite for destruction. The movie's low budget is obvious, and the monster effects are more amusing than frightening. The giant wasps, brought to life with clunky stop motion and exaggerated models, looked like they could topple over from their own weight. The African setting is presented through backdrops and stock footage, creating a surreal mix of adventure and sci-fi on a shoestring budget. Monster from Green Hell has earned a special place in the hearts of B-movie fans, though. Its charm lies in its sincere attempt to blend adventure with monster horror, capturing the 1950s fascination with radiation and giant creatures. The Strange World of Planet X, 1958. The Strange World of Planet X, also known in the US as Cosmic Monsters, is a British sci-fi horror film directed by Gilbert Gunn. Set in the English countryside, the film follows physicist Dr. Laird, who's conducting dangerous magnetic field experiments that disrupt Earth's protective atmosphere. His experiments cause cosmic rays to penetrate the atmosphere, and they trigger strange weather and mutating local insects into giant deadly creatures. An American scientist, Gil Graham, and computer expert Michelle DuPont try to stop Dr. Laird as his experiments escalate. Meanwhile, a mysterious Mr. Smith, who turns out to be an alien from Planet X, arrives to warn humanity of the potentially catastrophic effects of Laird's work, which threaten even his own distant world. As mutated monsters wreak havoc, the military intervenes, and Mr. Smith uses his alien technology to destroy the lab, ending the crisis. Before the next movie, if you like these trips down memory lane, please hit that subscribe button or consider becoming a channel member. It keeps this passion project going strong and means the world to me. Thanks. And now, back to the show. The Black Scorpion, 1957. This classic sci-fi horror film combines action with creative special effects. The plot centers around a series of volcanic eruptions in Mexico, which unleash gigantic prehistoric scorpions from subterranean caverns. These colossal creatures wreak havoc on rural communities and eventually pose a threat to Mexico City. The film is notable for its stop-motion animation, crafted by Willis O'Brien, the legendary effects artist behind the original King Kong. In spite of the film's low budget, O'Brien and his team, including animator Pete Peterson, brought the monstrous scorpions to life with remarkable realism for the time. When it was released, the Black Scorpion got mixed reviews. While critics praised the special effects, they thought the story and the character development weren't quite up to par. In spite of that, the film has gained a cult following over the years and is a nostalgic piece of 1950s giant monster cinema. Beginning of the end, 1957.
This is observation post number 1. I'm right in the middle of them.
This one takes audiences on a wild journey into the realm of atomic horror, where irradiated corn leads to the creation of colossal grasshoppers. You heard me right, I said grasshoppers, that descend upon a small Illinois town. The film's special effects consist largely of superimposing real grasshoppers onto scenes of buildings and landscapes, with predictably shaky results. The insects appear as if they're merely crawling across postcard backdrops, with less terror than one might expect from an infestation of picnic ants. Still, there's a certain charm in watching these overgrown pests lumber through cityscapes, attempting to evoke a sense of impending doom. The plot is classic 50s monster movie fare. Dr. Ed Wainwright, played by Peter Graves, must uncover the cause of the giant grasshopper invasion and save humanity from these mutated corn-fed creatures. Alongside him is the determined newspaper photographer Audrey, whose mission to get the story aligns with his quest to stop the outbreak. The story follows predictable beats, with each step forward revealing more grasshopper havoc and more melodramatic declarations of disaster. Despite its technical limitations, Beginning of the End has found a loyal fan base. The sheer audacity of trying to turn grasshoppers into fearsome monsters, combined with the earnestness of its cast, makes it a memorable example of B-movie charm. It's a delightful campy film that stood the test of time and is celebrated for its creativity in making the mundane monstrously entertaining. The Deadly Mantis, 1957. This film belongs firmly in the so bad it's good genre, as a volcanic eruption in the South Seas triggers a chain reaction, causing Arctic icebergs to shift and releasing a colossal praying mantis from its icy prison. This prehistoric creature embarks on a destructive journey from the North Pole toward warmer regions, leaving a trail of devastation. Colonel Joe Parkman leads the military's efforts to investigate mysterious disappearances and wreckages in northern Canada. The discovery of a massive, unidentified spur prompts consultation with paleontologist Dr. Nedrick Jackson. Dr. Jackson identifies the artifact as part of a giant insect, setting off a nationwide alert. As the mantis advances southward, it attacks various locations, eventually reaching Washington, D.C. The creature's rampage culminates in a dramatic showdown inside the Manhattan Tunnel, where military forces employ chemical warfare to subdue the beast. While the special effects are definitely dated, the film offers a nostalgic glimpse into classic sci-fi giant monster movies and deserves to be added to your watch list. The Monster That Challenged the World, 1957.
I've been with this office for 15 years, but I've never seen anything like this. Have you, Josh? Afraid not.
The story unfolds in California's Salton Sea, where an underwater earthquake releases giant prehistoric mollusks from the ocean floor. These monstrous creatures start to terrorize the local population. U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander John Twillinger is called in to investigate the mysterious disappearances and deaths. Teaming up with scientist Dr. Jess Rogers and laboratory assistant Gail McKenzie, Twillinger discovers that the mollusks are breeding rapidly and pose an escalating threat. The team races against time to locate and destroy the creatures before they can spread beyond the Salton Sea and cause widespread devastation. The story is suspenseful and the use of practical effects effectively brings the menace of the giant mollusks to life. The monster that challenged the world is still a memorable entry and is definitely worth a watch for fans of the genre. Tarantula, 1955. This 1950 sci-fi horror film shows what happens when science goes wrong. Dr. Matt Hastings, a local physician in the fictional town of Desert Rock, Arizona, becomes involved in a terrifying mystery when a series of deaths occur, linked to a condition marked by abnormal growth of the hands, feet, and face. The trail leads to Professor Gerald Deemer, played by Leo G. Carroll, a scientist experimenting with a nutrient intended to address global food shortages by accelerating growth. Unfortunately, his serum has unintended side effects, causing rapid and uncontrollable growth in test subjects. The situation spirals out of control when a tarantula is exposed to the serum. It escapes into the desert and grows to colossal proportions, wreaking havoc on the local population. The film's special effects, great for the time, convincingly depict the gigantic spider terrorizing the desert landscape. A live tarantula was used for most of the scenes, with miniatures and matte effects enhancing the creature's menacing presence. The film also features an uncredited appearance by a young Clint Eastwood as a jet squadron leader who helps battle the giant spider in the climatic scenes. It's a fun film and should be added to your must-see list of 1950s giant monster movies. The Fly, 1958.
Don't hurt it. Oh, God, don't let it get out.
This 1958 sci-fi classic is a chilling tale starring the then mostly unknown David Hedison as Andre in the starring role, and the legendary Vincent Price as his brother Francois. Set in Montreal, Quebec, the film kicks off with a disturbing mystery. A scientist is found dead in his lab, with his head and arm crushed under a hydraulic press. His wife confesses to the crime, but refuses to explain why, though she's obsessed with finding a white-headed fly. This fixation leads her husband's brother to trick her into believing he caught the insect, prompting her to reveal the shocking truth. Through flashbacks, we learn that the scientist, Andre, was experimenting with a groundbreaking invention, a matter transporter. After several successful tests, he decides to try the device on himself. However, an uninvited passenger, a common housefly, gets into the chamber during the experiment. This leads to a horrifying fusion of man and insect, with Andre gaining the fly's head and arm, while the fly takes on his human features in miniature form. Desperate to reverse the accident, Andre instructs his wife Helene to catch the mutated fly. It escapes, and Andre's human mind slowly gives way to the insect's primal instincts. With no hope left, Andre destroys his lab, burns his research, and makes his wife assist in his own death. Helene confesses, but it's dismissed as delusional until they discover the fly, complete with Andre's head and arm, trapped in a spider's web. The infamous moment where the creature squeals, help me," as a spider approaches, has become one of the most iconic scenes in sci-fi horror history. The film's ending was considered so disturbing at the time that some audiences reportedly screamed during the scene where the fly, with Andre's human head, is about to be devoured by the spider. Them, 1954. This film was one of the first of the 1950s nuclear monster movies, and it featured giant mutated ants attacking humanity. It was an era that began with very real fears of nuclear radiation and nuclear fallout. In 1954, the desolate deserts of New Mexico hold a terrifying secret. New Mexico State Police Sergeant Ben Peterson and his partner stumble upon a young girl, mute and traumatized, wandering through the desert. Nearby, they find a wrecked vehicle, its owners missing. When they investigate, the officers encounter another discovery at a nearby general store where the owner has been viciously mutilated. Soon, FBI agent Robert Graham, Dr. Harold Medford, and his daughter Pat arrive, sent by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Dr. Medford suspects something far more horrifying than a typical animal attack. When the catatonic girl is exposed to the fumes of formic acid, which is a substance associated with ants, she wakes up screaming a single word, them. When the group returns to the desert where the girl was found, a monstrous ant, now grown to gigantic proportions, attacks them. They manage to blind it and kill it, but Dr. Medford's theory is chilling. The first atomic bomb tests have mutated the local ants into giant carnivores. Their food supply has dwindled, and now they've turned to humans. Them is a must-see if you like equal parts suspense and campy fun. It also reflects a real fear of the atomic age. The special effects are a little cheesy at times, but they were top-notch at the time. Check this one out for a good time while you're binge-watching these great 50s sci-fi flicks. If you're a lover of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and nostalgia, you're going to love it here at Rerun Zone, so hit that subscribe button on your way out. With that said, this is Rich from Rerun Zone. Thanks for watching, and good night.